I had really the best childhood that you could have asked for.
Life growing up for me was a roller coaster.
My family, my household was pretty dysfunctional and pretty abusive, so.
My family's all super close, still to this day, very close. A lot of us are best friends with each other.
I have my younger brother, who's about a year apart from me. He is mentally disabled. He has a seizure disorder and has about, right now, a mind capability of a 3-year-old.
Grew up going hunting and fishing with my dad.
It was an understanding that he needed their time. He needed their attention. He needed their help more than I did.
I really honestly couldn't have asked for a better childhood.
My fondest memories growing up, there's not a ton, but
always playing outside with my friends, riding bikes, playing football in the street.
As the oldest, I had a feeling that I needed to take on a lot.
I would say playing basketball in the backyard with my dog.
My family's the kind of family where we don't really talk a lot, especially about ourselves and especially about tough situations.
Hanging out with my buddy Aaron, I was at his house all the time, and him and his family were really like my family.
I think our happiest times were really just like playing in the backyard. I mean, we'd ride our bikes everywhere.
I like that I learned early on how to be a hard worker, how to have my head on straight, that kind of deal.
In high school, I wrestled the end of high school, and I was really good at it, and I ended up going to state. So that was always a good memory, being with my friends on the team and taking road trips and working out with those guys.
When we were about 11 or 12, my dad told us that we were going to move halfway across the world to become missionaries.
You know, I can remember getting really irrationally angry about stuff that shouldn't have made me that angry.
In that time, things started to get really rough for me.
How come this situation that maybe wouldn't be a big deal to somebody else is completely wrecking my world right now?
It was already hard to try and express myself because I didn't want to burden anybody.
I always felt sad.
I was really hurting. So I began to pick at myself and bite myself, and I progressed into cutting myself with razors.
Never felt like I could be in the moment.
You feel so numb, but it hurts so bad at the same time that you just want to take a second just to feel like you're real again.
Friends were laughing. There was always a part of me that was kind of outside looking at that like, that's not real. How can they be so happy?
You know, it was just this last year that I started realizing what it actually was this whole time. There's so many other signs besides anger that I showed.
Any sort of joy never connected with me. And even though I had some friends and I had fun, I had a lot of friends and I thought I had fun. They never really connected.
You know, one of the earliest memories that I have is my dad teaching me that a tough guy doesn't have to let you know that they're tough.
I feel like if I would have talked to somebody and been honest about how I was feeling, the help would have been there.
And I don't think he taught me that on how to teach me how to be a mean, intimidating person, but more on how to keep composure in, you know, really tough situations.
If I would have talked to somebody and told them the truth about how I was feeling, that it would have saved me a lot of pain in my adult life and a lot of pain growing up.
I thought that that's what being a man was, is that you just said nothing to anybody.
It's amazing how dark your mind gets.
Looking back at it now, it makes me so much stronger to be able to open up.
Growing up, if somebody said mental illness to me, it meant weakness.
It was something that was never brought up. It was never talked about. And it was one of those things that, you know, not so much from my family, but especially in school, you know, anytime having a mental illness got brought up, you were automatically looked at like you were crazy?
Mental illness at that time, I didn't think it. I thought it was just, you heard voices and you.
If somebody mentioned mental illness to me, it was just, you're in a funk.
But I also didn't want to be looked down on by my friends who probably would have been there for me if I would have said anything, but I thought would have made me look crazy.
Inside my mind, I thought I was alone.
I felt like I was the only one.
Nobody felt the things that I was feeling.
So I thought that I could change it. I thought that I could make myself feel better. I thought that I thought I could handle it.
Everybody else is fine, and that I'm the weird one.
I've got to be crazy for feeling this way. I've got to be absolutely nuts for feeling this way. I can just pull myself out of this. I can just do it.
It was just me, and it was my problem.
I felt like I was relieving serious pain.
No, I never talked to anybody about it. I was in counseling in kindergarten, and then again in 5th grade, and then again in high school. But I wouldn't talk to him because I felt alone, and I felt like nobody would get it, not even a counselor. And I felt like even if they did get it, they wouldn't care.
Inside my mind, I was the most afraid of people thinking that I was a weak person.
If I would have been honest about how I was feeling to a professional or somebody who really understood mental health, I feel like my story would be a little bit different.
When I don't have anybody to hang out with, the only thing I have is my own mind, and that's never been a good thing for me.
One of the mornings that I had decided that today I had enough of suffering. I didn't want to do this anymore, and I just wanted it all to stop.
And I can remember I was about 22, 23, I think. And I can remember sitting on the kitchen floor with my phone in one hand and a gun in the other hand, calling my parents and
giving a note to, just telling her that I really loved her and cared about her, and I just wanted her to know that if anything ever happened to me, that I at least really cared about Kylie. I really cared about her.
I wasn't crying, I wasn't yelling. It was like a calm had come over me, like I accepted it, this was it, I was done.
She gave the note to a teacher, who then gave the note to the counselor, who then called me into his office and asked me if I was feeling okay.
They tried to talk me into letting them come and get me and take me to the hospital, and for some reason I was still too proud to even accept that.
I got put into the systems, court ordered a couple different times.
I know that I need help because obviously I'm calling somebody, And on the other hand,
we were having a movie night at one of in the facility.
So after I rejected that, they said, okay, well, we're going to have the cops come and get you then, and they'll take you to the hospital. I said, you can go ahead, but tell them they're walking into a fight.
So I went to go look for her. And when I went into our room, I noticed that all the lights were off except for the one in the bathroom, because you can still hear the fan going. And when I went to turn to go see and look at the door, I noticed that there was a white sheet hanging out from the door. And my heart drops at this point, because I already know what's behind the door. I know it's my roommate, and I don't know whether or not she's still there.
I couldn't tie a knot very well, and it slipped kind of at the last second. And I passed out for a while by the door and woke up, and I was still there.
I didn't really have anything going on. It's just like this numbness had come over me. I wasn't thinking, I was blank. There was nothing going on.
What if I get found out? What happens if my mom has to find my body like that? What if my dad finds me like that? When
I was in 5th grade, I would try to smother myself with my pillow every night. My mom would come in and read me a story, and I would just wait for her to leave, and I would put the pillow over my face and try to hold it there and just hope that I could kill myself. I would hope that I would be able to smother myself. And I would put things on top of the pillow to try to hold it there. I would do that almost every single night until I was in high school.
I didn't admit that I had an issue until I was 27. So 4 years after that point, I kept dealing with it for another 4 years on my own.
What saved me was, honestly, counseling.
Finding help for me was difficult.
I think if anybody would have really just noticed me, because I see where I'm at now, and if I were to encounter a child who acted the way I did as a child, that young, I would think I would know something. And I think if somebody would have just saw me and realized what was going on, or just asked me about it, and I would have felt safe enough to tell them how I was feeling, I think that would have made all the difference in the world.
I wish that when I was younger that there had been enough information for me to try and understand as a young person what might be going on with how I was feeling.
I was in his office and I started to introduce myself to him again without even realizing it. And he stopped me and he's like, "You've been coming in here for months. Do you really not think I know what you do?" And I lost it, because that was the first person ever in my life to really see it and really notice how forgotten I feel.
Everybody's so busy within their lives that it's sometimes hard to see that someone actually needs help. It may be big red flags later when you're looking back, you're like, gosh, I should have just seen that.
Stigma, is stigma still an issue when it comes to mental illness? Absolutely, absolutely. And how important is it to me that we talk about it and break those walls down? It's the most important thing to me.
My mom, she bothers to sit me down and ask me, how can I help you? Not ask me what's wrong or try to explain it or try to fix it right away. How can I help you?
But unfortunately, there are not enough people who are comfortable talking about it. It makes people uncomfortable. And there are a lot of people who I believe deal with the same issues, who deal with shame. And it's not something you should be ashamed of. I'm depressive and proud of it. And I used to be ashamed. And so yeah, there is a stigma, and I think everybody who deals with it should know that they're not alone, and they should also use their voice to help other people.
My name is Angus Wolf.
My name is Laura Gatens.
My name is Jubal Flagg.
I live with extreme reoccurring depression and bipolarism.
I suffer from major depressive disorder. I also suffer from an anxiety disorder.
I am living with complex post-traumatic stress disorder and a learned depression from an abusive childhood.
I work every single day at an insurance agency.
I shovel concrete at my family's concrete plant. I've been doing it since I was 15.
I'm a syndicated radio personality based out of Seattle in 49 different cities across America.
I just want to change that negative stigma that mental health has tied to it.
You can see cancer. I mean, you can look under a microscope and you can see those organisms, attacking, these different cells and doing this and that.
It really can happen to anybody. I was varsity football my entire life, had a ton of friends my entire life, and
being able to educate us enough to be able to see that these people, AKA me, that I need help, that I need someone to listen to me.
In my mind, I'm still here today because I have a voice that wants to be heard.
In my mind, we can get better at making this an okay thing to talk about.
Not only educating our young folks, and this is all the way down into elementary years.
I believe that we need to get better at honesty.
I graduated high school 10 years ago and this was never talked about, ever.
It's not just teenage angst, it's not just, you know, you're going through a phase.
So I'm really happy that it's finally starting to be brought into the light, and I'm very happy that I can be a part of making that happen.
I believe that we should stop making excuses or telling other people how they feel is not actually how they feel. I believe that we need to get better at noticing people like me.
Can you help me? Is there a way that I can get help? Or even maybe going to their parents and saying, I learned about this in school. I've been feeling this way for a very long time. Mom, maybe we need to go to the doctor.
Doing my speeches and getting the letters back from the students that I've gotten, I couldn't believe how many of them all said the same thing, that they didn't know where to go for help. They thought that it made them weak to get help.
You get the symptoms of a flu and a cold and you need to go to a doctor. Well, there's those same symptoms there for mental health issues.
Seeing that stuff all broke my heart because it's the exact same thing that I thought for 27 years of my life.
I believe that you care enough to give.
By you being here tonight, you obviously care, and I can promise you that if you give what you can, that together we can beat this thing. We can make sure that people know the resources to reach out to.
I believe that together we got this. This is all of us. It involves everybody. It might involve you, it might involve your loved ones. I believe that if we work together and if you pay it forward, we can solve this.
I've always been really lucky to be surrounded with extremely supportive people. I reconnected with my wife, Jamie. Right from the beginning, she was able to kind of tame that violent side in me.
The one person that has been with me all the way is my mom. She has been the most non-judgmental person. Everybody needs a cigarette in their life. Everybody needs a mom like my mom. They need someone fighting for them because sometimes they can't fight for themselves.
Life for me today is the happiest I've ever been. I'm still sad, but it's possible to be sad and incredibly happy at the same time. Life for me today is awesome because I got the help I needed to get, and I was able to find somebody who finally sees me and hears me, and that is my fiance, Alex. So, life for me today is amazing, and I'm glad I made it this far, and I'm glad I made it far enough to meet her.
Next year they're all going to be in middle school.
They'll be in middle school, finally back in school with you, huh?
Yep.